The SEC wins yet another national championship in 2025. Could football be coming next? Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $100 or $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's over at FanDuel.com. All right, let's jump into it as the LSU Tigers are atop the college baseball world. LSU 2025 national champions, defeating Coastal Carolina yesterday 5-3 in their second game of the College World Series. They take the best of three championship series. Don't even need to go to three games. And LSU didn't lose a game in Omaha. They needed just one pitcher on Saturday's game. Kade Anderson was phenomenal. And they needed just two on Sunday. Anthony Eyanson, outstanding, and then Chase Shores coming on in relief. Shores allowed just one hit, but got the game-ending double play to lock it in for LSU. It was a wild game. Coastal Carolina head coach Kevin Schnall was ejected in the first inning. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But the Tigers, they responded. It was a tie game 1-1, and Chris Stanfield singled to plate two, gave LSU the lead. The LSU chants were going nuts. The LSU fans absolutely showed up and showed out in Omaha. And Anthony Eyanson goes 6 1/3 innings, 3 runs off 7 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, all on 99 pitches, 69 of those for strikes. And LSU finished the season on an 8-game win streak. We talked all about, Coastal Carolina. They got this 26-game win streak. Oh, my goodness. Can they be beat? And LSU beats them not once, but twice in a row. Absolutely incredible stuff from LSU. And, you go back to the Tigers' last loss. You remember that was to Little Rock in the Baton Rouge Regional. And, there were some people wondering, was Little Rock a team of destiny? Were they going to pull this off and hand, knock out LSU in their own regional in Baton Rouge? But LSU, held on to win that regional, then knocked off West Virginia in the Super Regional before 5 College World Series games in Omaha, beating Arkansas, UCLA, and Coastal Carolina. The national championship is the 8th in LSU baseball history. Tigers have now won in 91, 93, 96, 97, 2000, and then the 200 Jay Johnson 2023 and 2025. And the LSU title continues the SEC streak of 6 consecutive titles. We'll touch on that in just a minute. But close out the talk on LSU, and Kade Anderson, the lefty, was just phenomenal. He was the tone setter Saturday night in game 1, threw 130 pitches in their complete game win. He was rewarded yesterday with the most outstanding player award. And just absolutely outstanding. 130 pitches, 83 of those for strikes, shut down Coastal Carolina and their red-hot offense, and set the tone for LSU in their entire run in Omaha. On June 14th against Arkansas, through 7 innings of 1-run ball, struck out 7 Razorbacks on 100 pitches in that one. And then on Sunday, Anderson, on top of the world, rewarded with the top individual honor. Pretty cool stuff there. Most outstanding player award for Kade Anderson. But really, both these guys, Eyanson and Anderson were that 1-2 punch. And even the broadcast team was showing some of the teams that have won, College World Series with that dynamic 1-2 punch. And this is what differs from LSU's title in 2023 when they had, it was basically Paul Skeens and the Funky Bunch. Like, this one was a 1A, 1B of ace 1 and ace 2. Anthony Eyanson would have been an ace on just about anybody else's staff. And he was the number 2 on LSU's behind Kade Anderson. So both those guys just absolutely phenomenal. And I saw somebody kind of comparing them to, UCLA back about 14 years ago when they had Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer. Pretty outstanding 1-2 punch from 2 of your starters. But LSU, certainly, those 2 guys will go into the annals of LSU history and SEC history as 2 of the best to get it done together there in winning a title. Jay Johnson did reveal post-game after the game, second baseman Daniel Dickinson broke the hamate bone in his hand in their first NCAA regional game, and he kept playing through it. Pretty incredible stuff there for Daniel Dickinson. I mean, I assume he was taking some painkillers, doing whatever he had to do to play through it, but pretty gutty stuff there. A warrior kind of battling through it, and again, had some hits throughout the postseason and played good defense at second. Really cool stuff there. Again, I don't want to make this a whole LSU love fest, but just want to show some love to what they have been able to do. Ross Dellinger tweeting out last night, he said, LSU wins the College World Series, and the Bayou has been cooking up championships. They won football in 19, they won men's outdoor track in 21, and then the last 3 years, they won women's basketball in 23, baseball in 23, gymnastics in 24, and now baseball in 25. And that is now 3 straight years that LSU has won a national championship in one of the bigger sports. And Jay Johnson has now won 2 national titles in 4 years at LSU. You got to start thinking, if he wins another one or more, I mean, he's going to be putting himself in that category of all-time greats if he's not already there. But you look at LSU and they're them winning national championship, and you look at the SEC, and the SEC has now won 6 in a row. 6 championships in a row in the Men's College World Series. Florida won it in 2017, so really it's 7 of the last 8 they've won. And if you want to go back all the way to 2009, the SEC has won 11 of the past 16 national championships. Remember we were doing this in football? We're like, look at how dominant the SEC's been the last 20 years in college football. And yeah, it's a 2-year drought here, but you know, it's just been crazy. The SEC's been dominating college football championships the last 20 years. Well, baseball belongs in that category. 11 of the past 16 national championships. But 6 in a row is pretty outstanding. And yes, noted the 2020 COVID year was canceled, so we didn't have one there. But LSU in 25, Tennessee in 24, LSU in 23, Ole Miss in 22, Mississippi State in 21, and Vanderbilt in 19. Really, really cool stuff there from the SEC. And now, you know, this whole narrative about the SEC's dead, the SEC's dying. Oh, the SEC, it used to be a dominant conference, but now it's a level playing field with NIL and all this other stuff. Let's take a look at it. Current SEC national champions in the country in sports in 2025. This is just this year. Yes, Ohio State won in football. Congrats. Tip of the cap. Would have been nice if Texas could have beaten them, or Georgia or somebody. But anyway, LSU is now the national champion in baseball this year. Texas won the championship in softball. So first year, you know, welcome to the SEC, Texas. They win it in softball. Men's basketball, of course, what Todd Golden's bunch did, the Florida Gators, reigning national champs in men's basketball. I will say women's basketball, they were right there. Dawn Staley lost to UConn, but they played for a title, so that, you know, is worth mentioning. Gymnastics, Oklahoma won it. Outdoor men's and track, I mean, men's and women's track, I mean, it's just the SEC always dominates in that. But A&M, the reigning in men, Georgia, the reigning in women. Georgia won in women's tennis, and Texas always dominates in swimming and diving. They are the reigning champs there. So I say all that to say, could the SEC in football be coming? Well, they need it just for the sake of these idiot Big Ten fans all yelling, the SEC's doing it. Okay, whatever. Yeah, it would help their case if the SEC can win a championship in football this year. But that's dominance, man. I mean, forget this whole thing of, you know, oh, the SEC's dead. Like all the other big sports. And I get what you're saying. Okay, baseball's pretty big, softball, you know, decently big, gymnastics is getting bigger. Men's basketball, I mean, it had been a long drought. It had been since Kentucky in 2012 that the SEC had won in men's basketball. So that one was, you could argue, the biggest. But to win 6 straight in baseball, I'm sorry, are they doing anything in the Big Ten? Are they doing anything in the ACC and these other conferences? Like, hello? And the SEC is only going to get stronger because they're going to donate, or they're going to use a lot of these resources in revenue sharing. And of course, NIL, as it continues on, the SEC is not going anywhere. Now, we'll say a school like Coastal Carolina getting this close again. They won a title, was that in 16? Coastal may want to move a few more of those football dollars over to baseball, because they could create themselves, into a true power here in the Sun Belt with this day and age of revenue sharing and allocating funds and that sort of thing. But nonetheless, congrats to LSU and congrats to the SEC. Yet another national championship in the year 2025. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC. When we return, we'll get into one of the not so great moments of the game on Sunday. That was the home plate umpire ejecting Coastal Carolina's coach. We'll discuss that next right here on Locked On SEC. Hey, but first, guys, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you are all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or some high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best place to make every game even more exciting. If you're already following the action, why not make it a little more thrilling with FanDuel? You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. If you've never signed up with FanDuel before, encourage you to go get signed up. They got same-game parlays, making bets on baseball is the most fun to do with FanDuel throughout the season. But we tell you guys, a lot of the SEC Week 1 games are up there in college football. A lot of the over-under bets, Heisman odds, all that is up there for you right now at FanDuel.com. Encourage you guys to go and just check it out. And then if you decide to sign up, like we said, new to FanDuel, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Just open the FanDuel app today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started and signed up. And take advantage of that great deal for all new users over at FanDuel, FanDuel.com. Check them out today. All right, roll along here. Locked On SEC, part of Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Shout out to everydayers. Keep coming back and checking us out each and every day. All right, I want to get into this. And this is just an overall theme I just want to put out there. Umpiring and officiating just needs to be better overall in college athletics. I feel like so often we have been talking about a bad ref call in basketball, a bad ref call in football, a bad umpire call in baseball, and Sunday was no different. Now, look, first off, we got to get this out on the table. Did it benefit LSU, Coastal Carolina's coach, getting ejected? Sure. Did that mean that the umpire wanted to see LSU win? Did that mean that ESPN, the network carrying the game, for some reason wanted to give LSU a slight favorite, whatever? All that stuff is so stupid, but I've been seeing it on the internet. I feel like it's worth at least bringing up because people are morons out there. But if you missed it, Coastal Carolina coach Kevin Schnall and first base coach Matt Schilling were ejected in the bottom of the first inning in Game 2 of the College World Series Finals against LSU on Sunday. Walker Mitchell was at bat with 2 outs. Sebastian Alexander had just stolen second base as Schnall went to the top steps of the dugout, gestured at home plate umpire Angel Campos with 3 fingers, and began shouting at him. Now, the NCAA put out a statement. They said Schnall was arguing balls and strikes and was given a warning already, and then was thrown out when he did not leave immediately. And in fact, Schnall even continued further onto the field and continued arguing. And so the NCAA put out a statement and said, playing rule 36F, note 1 states ball strikes, half swings, or decisions about hit by pitch situations are not to be argued. After a warning, any player or coach who continues to argue balls, strikes, or half swings shall be ejected from the game. And the NCAA said prolonged arguing results in a 2-game suspension. And that's what Schnall did. And so he will indeed miss the first 2 games of the 2026 season. So I think it's a fine line here. Look, did he deserve to be ejected? No. I think in the first inning of a championship game or championship series, I think cooler heads have to prevail. I also think that there is some blame on Schnall. You don't want to get run. Look, you know what the rule is. You pushed his hand a little bit by staying out there and continue to go out there. Again, not defending Campos. I think he should not have been ejected. But I'm also saying Schnall is completely innocent here. Like he did, by letter of the law, he got his ejection because he did something he shouldn't have been doing. But the ESPN broadcast crew, they said Schnall described Schilling, the first base coach who got ejected, as the most important coach on his staff. Schilling was kicked out after walking behind the umpires near the first baseline and continuing to make comments to them, which prompted his ejection. And so with Schnall out, Chanticleer's associate head coach Chad Oxendine served as the acting coach the rest of the way. He had worked as the Longwood head coach prior to his stint in Coastal Carolina. But some folks chimed in. Jeff Passon, who covers MLB, he tweeted out, he said, look, there are very few combinations of words in the English language that weren't getting ejected as a coach from an elimination game in the College World Series finals. I agree. Like, let's let cooler heads prevail. Let's move on. 11.7 says it's embarrassing for the sport. Need umpires with thicker skin. Emotional game with a lot on the line. Ron Weschler said, I've said it before, I'll say it again, baseball umpires have the most fragile ego in sports, and they face no consequences for their actions. Jerry McGee tweeted out, he said, I'm a retired college sports official, but the men's College World Series home plate umpire was dead wrong ejecting the Coastal coach in that situation. Again, I disagree a little bit. He's not dead wrong. There's a rule, and he enforced the rule. It is one that, again, I think you let slide there. You're going to say, Coach, I'll warn you one more time, but, go back to your dugout. Look, did he have some validity in arguing the ball strikes? Yes. But you do that from the dugout. I mean, he walks out there and does the three, you're showing him up. You're showing up the umpire to send a message. And again, it's not completely in the clear on it. Not defending the umpire. The umpire should have just let it slide. Trey Wallace of Outkick, he called it ridiculous and absolutely absurd. Our buddy Isaac Shade of the Lockdown Network, he said literally all he did was said, you missed 3 pitches. Umpire has to have thicker skin than that. I get it. You're saying he only said you missed 3 pitches, but he was showing him up, walking all the way out there onto the field and putting up the 3 fingers. But to me, this is part of a larger story that college and SEC referees and umpires just need to do better. And we have had our fair share of controversial calls in college athletics here the last couple of years. I mean, if you want to go to, let's just stick in the SEC. Let's go to college football. Georgia-Texas game. Remember, we had the reversed pass interference call, fans throwing objects onto the field in protest. That is, that's one that was a black eye for the SEC. Again, it didn't, Georgia still found a way to win the game. Then you had the Alabama Tennessee game where Kendrick Law was called for a 15-yard penalty late in that game, and it backed up Alabama to 4th and 22, made it nearly impossible for them to make a play there. ESPN's Matt Austin even said there should have been offsetting penalties on the call as Kendrick Law got into it with Boo Carter, and again, flag was thrown only one way. You had in the Alabama versus Oklahoma game, controversial penalty called against Ryan Williams for illegal touching during a play where he caught, an apparent touchdown pass, and they brought it back, overruled it. So again, it's just one thing after another with the SEC. Certainly in football, I mean, what is it? Arkansas fans will tell you all the time, like if they feel like they're the butt of the calls in football games. How about in basketball? 29 seconds left in the game against Auburn. Tennessee's Felix Okpara called for a controversial foul. It sent Janai Broom to the line. Even Jay Billis on ESPN was ripping the refs for the call. You had Missouri mounting a late comeback against Kentucky. Less than 2 minutes on the clock. A crucial offensive foul called against Mizzou. And moments later, a missed traveling violation by a Kentucky player. And led to a lot of backlash on social media. And then if you really want to go back, I mean, one of the most egregious I remember recent history. Remember Arkansas Auburn in 2020? Arkansas loses when Bo Nix spikes the ball backwards in a 1-possession game. Sam Pittman was just enraged. It was ruled an incomplete pass instead of a fumble. And, it was followed by a whistle that was blown too soon that did not allow for a, quote, clear recovery and was a missed call, blown call. So all I'm saying here is, and we'll bring it up again at SEC Media Days in a couple of weeks, it's just always a topic of conversation. Can we do better? Can we do better with the officiating? And I get this isn't just an SEC problem like this home plate umpire in the LSU Coastal Carolina game. This isn't an SEC problem. I'm just saying it's a college sports problem in general that I think with all the money on the line here, and we're talking, it is a $1 billion sport, college football is, and college athletics is really by default and the connection with football, it's a $1 billion business, period, college athletics. We need better refereeing. We need better umpiring. We need people to do better at their jobs. So that's the gist of it. Again, what does LSU still win if Kevin Schnall doesn't get run by the umpire? Probably. I mean, the way Anthony Eyanson and Chase Shores were pitching, LSU probably still wins the game, but you just don't want that to happen. Like, can you imagine this happening in a college football game where, let's just say for argument's sake, Alabama's playing, I don't know, Penn State in the national championship game to share a football, and Kalen DeBoer does something egregious, says something egregious to a referee, and they run him. I mean, cooler heads have to prevail. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. When we return, we can get you caught up on what was a busy weekend in recruiting in the conference. All right, roll on here, Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. It was a busy weekend in the SEC in college football recruiting, so let's get you caught up on some of the biggest happenings around the conference. So we'll start off over at Oklahoma as they landed one of the top 2026 quarterback commits in adding Bowe Bentley, four-star quarterback out of Texas. He was down to LSU and Oklahoma, and he officially committed to Brent Venables and the Sooners. The writing was on the wall there. They had another quarterback committed that decommitted prior to that, so it was kind of understood after he had a really good visit to Oklahoma that he was going to end up committing there. But big time get there for Ben Arbuckle and Brent Venables. The only thing you got to wonder, though, is Oklahoma, you got to have a good season this year, because if they don't, let's say they finish sub 500 and Brent Venables gets fired, that you're going to lose Bentley. You're going to lose a lot of your recruits. So, but right now, good pickup for Oklahoma, looking pretty good for the Sooners. How about over at Georgia? Kirby Smart making a big move, flipping an Auburn commit. The Bulldogs over the weekend flipped four-star linebacker Shadarius Toodle away from Auburn. He committed to the Tigers for nearly a year, and instead of taking his talents to the Plains, he is heading to Athens. He posted to On3, if you want to be the best, why not play with the best? Massive pickup, number 166 overall player, number 9 linebacker in the country. Over at Texas A&M, they picked up a commitment in four-star edge Tristan Givens. He posted on On3, I am home, recruitment shut down. He's the number 61 overall player, the number 7 edge in the country for the class of 2026. Also the number 6 player from the state of Georgia. Big get there for Mike Elko's crew. They now have 19 commits for the class of 2026. According to 24/7 Sports, that puts them number 2 in the nation. How about their counterpart, the Texas Longhorns? They had a really nice weekend, picking up a commitment from 5-star edge Richard Wesley. Big time boost on their defensive line, 6'4", 255 pounds from the Los Angeles area. Big get for them. And then they also had a 4-star D lineman, Vodney Cleveland. He chose the Longhorns over the likes of Georgia and Florida. He's the number 18 defensive lineman in the country, number 141 overall. So, man, Texas making some big moves. I think he's at 14, 15 commits in the class of 2026. I already got a 5-star quarterback, Diabell, moving into the top 10 very quickly here for Steve Sarkisian's group. How about over at Alabama? They picked up a commitment from J.J. Fitch, 3-star defensive lineman. Had offers from Tennessee, Miami, among others. He's the number 448 overall player, the number 50 defensive lineman in the class. Over at Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby picked up a commitment from a Georgia defensive back named Jax Pope. He's 6'1", 190 pounds, number 118 safety in this class. Over Kentucky, they added to their offensive side of the ball with a 3-star tight end, Lincoln Watkins. Kentucky Sports Radio reporting the commitment. He's 6'4", 233 pounds, top 500 player in the class of 2026. I believe the 22nd best tight end coming out of the state of Michigan, 10th ranked player from the state of Michigan. Couple more notes here. How about over at Florida? Anthony Richardson, former quarterback, of course, in the NFL. He was back in the Gainesville area doing some charity work over the weekend. Was asked about DJ Lagway and the Florida Gators. Of course, Lagway taking over now as the full-time starter. Richardson telling 24/7 Sports, I'm actually looking forward to them running the playoffs this year. So, look, it's fun to put that storyline out there. Breaking news, Anthony Richardson believes in the Florida Gators and thinks they're going to be really good. But look, put that pressure on Billy Napier and staff. I'm sure they're going, hey, Anthony, why don't you just say we think they could compete for an SEC title? Saying Florida's going to make a run through the playoff. Oof. High expectations. All right. One more note before we get out of here. Baseball recruiting. Tennessee added a commitment from a two-way starter in DJ Newman. He started as a hitter and a pitcher at Bowling Green the last couple of years. This past year, he batted .419 in 25 games and pitched very well as well. I think a 3.60 ERA I saw, struck out 91. And then Ole Miss, they picked up a pitcher from San Diego State righty Marco Sapilla, headed to Oxford. So Mike Bianco getting started there. And then Arkansas star Wahiwa Aloy, he won the 2025 Golden Spikes Award as well a couple of days ago. So good stuff there. And look, now that LSU won the national championship, I'm sure Jay Johnson and the Tigers are going to start getting some guys in through the transfer portal as well. Now that they can shift their focus to that. But Tennessee and Tony Vitello, they've been wasting no time. They've been putting together a nice transfer class. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. For your second listen, you can check out the Portal Show with Brian Smith. He's got the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan of the rapid changes to the college football landscape. I'm Chris Gordy. It's been Locked On SEC. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.